It was a bright Monday morning at Bright Tech Company. The glass doors shined. Employees rushed in with coffee cups, and the sound of clicking keyboards filled the air. It was a big day. The CEO, Mr. David Collins, was about to meet some important investors. Everyone was excited, nervous, and busy, but one man walked calmly through the office with a mop in his hand. Sam, the janitor. He was an old man, quiet and polite. His uniform was clean but faded, and his eyes carried a strange mix of kindness and sadness. Every morning he greeted people with a small smile, but few ever noticed him. To most, he was just the janitor. That morning, as Sam cleaned near the CEO's office, something felt different. He noticed two unfamiliar men standing near the lobby. They looked too serious. Not like investors, not like delivery staff either. Sam watched them quietly from the corner of his eye. They were whispering, and one of them kept checking a small bag near his leg. Sam's instincts told him something wasn't right. The calm before the storm. Inside the CEO's office, Mr. Collins prepared his presentation. His assistant rushed in and out, bringing papers and water. Everyone was too focused on the big meeting to notice what was happening outside. Meanwhile, Sam slowly moved closer to the two men. He was pretending to mop the floor, but his eyes were sharp, trained. His movements were calm, but his mind was alert. One of the men reached into his jacket. Sam's heartbeat quickened. He didn't want to believe it, but the way the man moved reminded him of something from his past, something dangerous. Sam whispered to himself, "Stay calm. Just stay calm." Then it happened. The two men started walking fast toward the CEO's office. One of them pushed open the door without knocking. The assistant screamed. Sam dropped his mop and ran. The unexpected hero inside the office, everything turned into chaos. The CEO stood frozen as the two men shouted, "You're coming with us." Before the guards could arrive, Sam burst into the room. Everyone stared, and a janitor running in like a storm. Without a second thought, he stepped in front of the CEO and spread his arms wide. "Don't touch him!" Sam shouted. The room went silent. The men stopped. Everyone stared in shock. For a moment, nobody moved. The CEO looked confused. His employees whispered to each other, unsure if Sam had lost his mind, but Sam didn't move. His eyes were fixed on the strangers. "Leave now," he said firmly. "You don't want to do this," the taller man smirked. "Move, old man. This is none of your business." Sam didn't reply. Instead, he stepped forward, blocking the CEO completely. His voice was low but strong. "It is my business." Suddenly, one of the men reached for his pocket. Sam reacted fast, faster than anyone expected. He grabbed the man's arm, twisted it, and the small metal object fell to the floor. A knife. Gasps filled the room. Within seconds, security rushed in and tackled the two men. The situation was over almost as quickly as it began. Everyone was safe, whispers and questions, but now the real drama began. The employees surrounded Sam, staring in disbelief. "How did he do that?" one whispered. "He moved like a trained officer," another said. "Why was he protecting the CEO like that?" Even the CEO couldn't speak for a moment. He looked at Sam carefully. Something about the old man's eyes seemed familiar. Before he could ask anything, the head of security arrived and said, "Sir, we'll handle this." He turned to Sam. "You need to come with us for questioning." Sam didn't argue. He simply nodded and said softly, "I just did what was right." The guards led him away, while employees whispered behind his back. Why would a janitor risk his life? Does he know the CEO? Maybe he's not just a janitor. The office was full of confusion and gossip. The CEO's thoughts later that afternoon. Mr. Collins sat alone in his office, still trying to understand what had happened. The image of Sam standing in front of him, fearless, protective, wouldn't leave his mind. He called his assistant. "Find out everything you can about that janitor," he said. She nodded and left. But deep down, the CEO felt something strange. It was like he had seen Sam before, many years ago, in a completely different world. Outside, the janitor's mop and bucket still stood near the door, quietly waiting. But the man who used them was gone, taken away for questioning, leaving behind 100 unanswered questions. The mystery begins that night. Whispers spread all through the company. Some said Sam had been a soldier. Others said he was an undercover bodyguard. A few even believed he was once part of the CEO's family. No one knew the truth. But everyone agreed on one thing. That man wasn't just a janitor, and somewhere in a small security room, a young intern named Lena decided she would find out who Sam really was, because something inside her said, "This story isn't over yet." The next morning, the whole office at Bright Tech Company buzzed with whispers. The air felt heavy with curiosity and confusion. Everyone wanted to know one thing: who really was Sam, the janitor who shouted, "Don't touch him," and protected the CEO. In the cafeteria, small groups of employees sat around their tables, talking in low voices. "I heard he used to be a cop," one said. "No, someone told me he was in the army," another replied. "I think he's crazy," a third whispered. "Why would a janitor fight two men like that?" No one really knew. Everyone had their own story. The young intern among all the employees was Lena, a new intern who had joined the company only a few months ago. She had always liked Sam. He was the only one who smiled at her every morning when she came in early. When her printer jammed or her coffee spilled, Sam always helped her without saying much. He was quiet, kind, and humble, but what Lena saw yesterday didn't fit that image. The way Sam moved, fast, confident, like he had been trained, it didn't seem like the actions of a simple janitor. Lena couldn't stop thinking about it. Something inside her told her there was more to this man's story. The hidden footage. That evening, when most employees had left, Lena went to the security room. Her friend Tom, who worked as an assistant in the department, was there. "Tom," she said softly, "can you show me the footage from yesterday morning?" "The one from the CEO's office hallway," Tom frowned. "Why?" "You know we're not supposed to open that without permission. I need to see something," Lena said. "Please." "I think Sam didn't do anything wrong," Tom sighed. He had a soft spot for Lena, so after a moment he nodded. "Okay, but only for 5 minutes." He opened the footage. The screen showed Sam cleaning near the CEO's office. Then two men appeared. They whispered to each other, looked around, and slowly reached into their pockets. Then suddenly, Sam dropped his mop and ran toward them. Lena leaned closer. "Wait, go back," she said. Tom rewound the video. They paused at a frame. One of the men had something shiny in his hand. It looked like a small knife. "Oh my God," Lena whispered. "He really saved the CEO. Those men were dangerous." Tom nodded slowly. He reacted like someone who knew exactly what he was doing. Lena noticed something else too. As Sam grabbed the man's arm, a part of his sleeve lifted, showing a small tattoo, a symbol of an eagle with a star. "What's that mark?" she asked. Tom squinted. "I've seen that before. It's a military insignia. Special forces, I think." Lena's eyes widened. "You mean Sam was a soldier?" Tom looked serious now. "If that's true, he's not just a janitor. He's someone who's been through a lot. The CEO's uneasy thoughts. At the same time, in his big office upstairs, Mr. Collins sat alone, staring at the same question in his mind. He couldn't forget Sam's voice, calm but strong. "Don't touch him!" It kept echoing in his head. He remembered the way Sam moved, the way he grabbed the attacker's arm like he'd done it 1,000 times before. It wasn't random courage. It was training. The CEO leaned back in his chair and said softly, "Who are you, Sam?" The search begins. The next day, Lena gathered her courage and went to the HR department. "Can I see the file for Sam, the janitor?" she asked politely. The HR lady looked at her suspiciously. "Why do you need it?" "I'm working on the incident report for yesterday," Lena lied. After a short pause, the lady handed over the file. It was thin, too thin for someone who had worked there for 3 years. There was no address, no emergency contact, and no past employment record. Just one line under previous experience, maintenance, freelance, that was it. No company name, no details. Lena frowned. This can't be right, she thought. She decided to dig deeper. That night, she searched online for the tattoo she saw in the video. It took her hours, but finally she found it. It was a symbol from the National Defense Special Unit, a secret branch that operated years ago. Only a few people in the country had that tattoo, and one of them was listed as Captain Samuel Reed, a decorated war hero who went missing after a classified mission. Lena's heart started to beat faster. "Samuel Reed, Sam," she whispered. Could it be him? The clues come together. The next morning, Lena went to see Tom again. She told him everything. Tom didn't believe her at first. "You mean our janitor was once a military captain?" "That sounds impossible." "I know," she said, "but look at this." She showed him the picture she found online, the same face, younger, in uniform. Tom stared. "That's him." "That's Sam," Lena smiled faintly. "He saved the CEO." "Again?" Tom looked confused. "What do you mean, again?" Lena hesitated. "I don't know yet. But the CEO looked like he knew Sam. There's a connection here, Tom. I can feel it." A silent visitor later that evening. When everyone went home, Lena stayed back in the office to gather more details. The building was quiet. The lights were dim. She opened Sam's old locker in the maintenance room. Inside, she found only a few items: a folded uniform, a small medal, and an old photo of a group of soldiers standing together. In the back row stood Sam, younger, stronger, but with the same calm eyes. Under the photo, one line was written, "Protect without fear." Lena smiled softly. "That's who he is," she whispered. But as she turned to leave, she froze. Someone was standing at the door. It was the CEO. He looked at the photo in Lena's hand and said quietly, "So, you found him." Lena swallowed hard. "You knew him before, didn't you, sir?" Mr. Collins sighed. "Yes," he said. "And what he did yesterday wasn't the first time he saved my life." The moment Mr. Collins said those words, the entire office felt silent in Lena's mind. He stood by the door, his face pale, eyes filled with memories. "Yes," he said quietly. "Sam saved my life once, many years ago." Lena couldn't believe what she was hearing. "You knew him before?" she asked softly. Mr. Collins nodded slowly. He walked into the small maintenance room, looking around at the old locker, the cleaning tools, the simple metal bucket that Sam used every day. Then his eyes fell on the photograph Lena was holding, the one with Sam in military uniform. He smiled sadly. That was him, Captain Samuel Reed, one of the bravest men I ever met. The war years ago, before Bright Tech even existed, David Collins wasn't a CEO. He was a young engineer who worked with the government on a secret technology project during a time of military conflict. He often visited military camps to install communication devices. That's where he met Captain Samuel Reed. Sam was different from other soldiers. He didn't talk much, but everyone respected him. He was calm, smart, and always protected his team. He had a rule: never leave anyone behind. One day, while they were testing new equipment in a war zone, their convoy was attacked. Bullets flew everywhere. David, terrified and unarmed, took cover behind a vehicle. Amid the chaos, Sam rushed toward him, shouting, "Stay down!" He shielded David with his body and fired back at the attackers. David could still remember the sound of that moment. The deafening explosions, the smell of smoke, and Sam's voice shouting orders. When it was finally over, David looked around. The enemy was gone, but so were half their soldiers. Sam had saved him, but he was badly wounded. The disappearance. After the attack, Sam was taken to a hospital. David visited him every day, thanking him, promising to stay in touch. But one night, Sam disappeared without warning. The army reported that he had left the hospital and gone missing. Some said he couldn't live with the memories of war. Others said he was forced out because of a failed mission. No one knew the truth. Years passed. David returned to civilian life and started his company. He became successful, rich, respected, and powerful. but he never forgot the man who had saved his life. "I searched for him for years," the CEO said softly, "but there were no records. It was like he vanished." Lena listened carefully. Her eyes were full of emotion. "So he just disappeared and ended up working here as a janitor?" she asked. "Yes," David replied, "but I didn't recognize him at first. Time changed him. He looked older, quieter, and he never mentioned the past. He looked at the floor and sighed. When I hired him, he said he needed a simple job. I didn't ask questions. Maybe he just wanted peace. A life of silence." After the war, Sam had lost everything. His rank, his home, even his family. His wife had died while he was away on duty, and he blamed himself. He left the city, changed his name slightly, and worked wherever he could, always choosing quiet places where no one knew him. He wanted to forget the noise, the orders, the pain. All he wanted was to live a simple life. Clean floors, fix lights, and be invisible. But even then, his instincts never left him. He always noticed small things others ignored. He could sense when something was wrong, like the two strangers outside the CEO's office that morning. That was why, when danger came again, he didn't think. He just acted. The CEO's regret, Mr. Collins, sat down on the bench near the locker, holding the photo in his hands. "I should have recognized him earlier," he said sadly. "He stood right in front of me every day, and I didn't see him." Lena could see guilt in his eyes. "Sir," she said softly, "maybe he didn't want to be recognized. Maybe he wanted to live as a normal person." The CEO nodded. "Yes, but he shouldn't have been treated like that. The guards, the people, they all judged him by his uniform." He clenched his fist. "That ends now." Lena looked at him curiously. "What are you going to do?" Mr. Collins stood up. "I'm going to find him, and I'm going to tell everyone who he really is." The hidden medal before leaving the maintenance room, Lena noticed a small metal box inside the locker. She opened it carefully. Inside was an old medal, scratched but still shining faintly under the light. On it was engraved a line, "For courage beyond duty, Captain Samuel Reed." Lena held it gently. "He kept this all these years," the CEO smiled softly. "Because that's who he is. He never wanted praise, just purpose." The search that evening, the CEO contacted the police and security office to find out where Sam had been taken. They said he was being questioned about the incident, but would be released soon. No charges, since the investigation showed he actually saved the CEO's life. Mr. Collins immediately asked for his location, but when they checked, they found out Sam had already left, quietly, without saying goodbye to anyone. He had disappeared again. Lena looked at the CEO. "We have to find him." Mr. Collins nodded. "We will. This time I won't let him vanish." A shadow from the past. That night rain poured outside the tall glass building. Lena stayed late again, thinking about everything she'd learned. On her desk lay the medal and the photo. She whispered to herself, "You saved so many lives, and yet no one even knows your story." Just then, her phone buzzed. It was a message from an unknown number. It said only one line, "Tell the CEO not to look for me." "Sam!" Lena stared at the screen, shocked. How did he know? Where was he now? She ran to the CEO's office and showed him the message. He read it slowly, then looked out the window at the rain. "He's still watching," the CEO said quietly. "He's protecting us, even from afar." Rain continued to fall over the city that night, tapping softly against the windows of Brightech Company. Inside his quiet office, Mr. David Collins, the CEO, sat at his desk, staring at the message Lena had shown him. "Tell the CEO not to look for me. Sam." Those simple words hit him hard. David leaned back in his chair and closed his eyes. For years, he had buried his past, the fear, the noise of war, and the face of the man who once saved him. But now, Every memory came rushing back like a storm. A memory from the past. It was over 15 years ago. David had been a young engineer, assigned to help the military test communication devices in a conflict zone. He wasn't brave or strong, just a quiet man who loved technology. On his third day there, his convoy was attacked by rebels. Gunfire echoed through the valley. David hid behind a broken vehicle, trembling. He thought it was the end. Then, through the smoke and chaos, a voice shouted, "Stay down!" A soldier ran toward him, tall, strong, eyes full of fire. That man was Captain Samuel Reed. Sam pulled David out of the open area, pushed him behind cover, and began firing back. Bullets flew past them, but Sam didn't flinch. David still remembered his voice, calm even under fire. "Keep your head down, son. I'll get you home." For hours, Sam fought alongside his small team until reinforcements arrived. When it was over, he was bleeding, but alive. He had saved every man he could, including David. The promise. In the hospital later, David sat by Sam's bed. "You saved my life," he said softly. Sam smiled weakly. "You don't owe me anything, son. Just live a good life. That's enough." But David shook his head. "I'll never forget this, I promise." Sam laughed quietly. "Promises fade. Just remember, do the right thing even when no one's watching." Those were the last words David heard from him before Sam disappeared from the hospital weeks later. For years, David carried guilt in his heart. He had gone on to build his company, create success, earn awards, but deep down, a part of him always felt he owed his life to someone the world had forgotten. The present pain now, sitting in his office, David opened his drawer and took out a small keychain, a metal tag he'd kept all these years. It had the name S. Reed engraved on it. He had found it in the rubble that day and never let it go. He turned to Lena, who was still standing near the door. "Do you know why I can't stop thinking about him?" he asked softly. Lena shook her head. "Because when I built this company, I told myself I would create something that protects people, just like Sam protected me, but somewhere along the way, I forgot what that really meant." His voice cracked a little. "I was too busy being a CEO. And he was right here, mopping the floors in front of me. I didn't even see him." Lena's eyes filled with tears. "Sir, you can still make it right," she said gently. "He's out there, he's alive. Maybe he just doesn't believe he belongs anywhere anymore." David nodded. "Then we'll show him that he does." The plan the next morning, David called an emergency meeting. Every manager, every department head gathered in the main conference hall. When everyone was seated, David stood at the front of the room and said, "I owe someone an apology, and so do all of you." The crowd looked confused. He took a deep breath. "The man you all know as Sam, the janitor, is not just a cleaner. He is Captain Samuel Reed, a national hero who once saved my life, and just yesterday saved this company from disaster." Gasps filled the room. People looked at each other in disbelief. Someone whispered, "The janitor, a hero?" David continued, "We judged him by his uniform, not by his actions. But when danger came, it wasn't the suits or titles that protected us. It was him, a man of honor." He paused for a moment, then said, "From today, I want this company to remember one thing. Never underestimate quiet people. Sometimes the ones you overlook are the ones who hold you together." The room was silent. A few employees wiped their eyes. Even the security guards looked down, ashamed of how they had treated Sam. A search with hope after the meeting. David went straight to the local shelters and hospitals, hoping to find Sam. Lena joined him. Carrying the old photo and medal, they searched for hours. At every place, they asked the same question: "Have you seen this man?" Some said no. Others thought they might have seen him walking by the river the night before. Finally, as evening approached, they stopped near an old park on the city's edge. A few homeless men sat near the benches. David showed them the picture. One of them nodded slowly. "Yeah, I saw him this morning. He was feeding the birds. Said he didn't want to go back." David's heart pounded. "Where did he go?" The man pointed toward a small old church nearby. Without thinking, David and Lena ran in that direction. The medal clutched tightly in Lena's hand. The church was quiet. The air filled with the scent of candles and dust. At the far end, near the altar, an old man sat alone. Grey hair, worn jacket, gentle posture. It was Sam. David stopped at the door, his throat tight. For a moment, he just watched him. The man who had saved him twice, sitting there in peace, like a shadow from another life, Lena whispered. Go to him. David took a deep breath and walked forward. The old church was quiet. Sunlight streamed through the dusty windows, falling gently across the wooden benches. At the far end, near the altar, Sam sat in silence. His hands were folded, his head bowed. He looked calm, too calm, as if he had already made peace with everything. Mr. Collins, the CEO, stopped near the door, breathing slowly. For a long moment, he just watched the man who had once saved his life, the man everyone else ignored. Lena stood behind him, holding the small medal tightly in her hands. David finally gathered the courage to speak. Sam, he said softly. Sam turned around slowly. When he saw David, a faint smile appeared on his tired face. I thought you'd come, he said quietly. David took a few steps forward. You disappeared again, he said. Without a word, Sam shrugged gently. I've done my part. The company is safe. That's all that matters. No, David said firmly. That's not all that matters. You saved my life, again. You've been protecting me for years, even when I didn't recognize you. Sam looked down. You don't owe me anything, sir. I was just doing what was right. David shook his head. Don't call me sir. If anyone deserves respect here, it's you. The conversation of truth. They sat together on the front bench. The air between them was heavy, filled with memories neither could fully escape. David looked at Sam. Why didn't you ever tell me who you were? Sam gave a sad little smile. What good would it do? The world doesn't care about old soldiers, David. I lost my family, my home, my peace. I just wanted to live quietly, somewhere no one asked questions. But you didn't deserve to live in the shadows, David said. You're a hero, Sam chuckled softly. Heroes don't mop floors, my friend. I've made mistakes too. Things happened in the war. Things I wish I could forget. Cleaning floors was easier than cleaning my memories. Lena, standing nearby, felt her throat tighten. She stepped forward and placed the medal in Sam's hands. This belongs to you, she said. Sam stared at it for a long time. His fingers trembled slightly. I thought I lost it years ago, he whispered. You found it? David nodded. It was in your locker. You kept it safe, even when you said you wanted to forget. Sam looked up, eyes moist. Some things you can't really forget. You just hide them until no one looks anymore. The apology. David took a deep breath. Sam, I called everyone this morning. The whole company knows the truth now, who you really are. They know what you did for me and for them, Sam frowned. Why would you do that? Because they judged you without knowing your story, David said. I did too. I should have recognized you. I was too blind to see the man right in front of me. Sam sighed. You don't have to feel guilty, David. Life moves on. People forget faces, but I don't want to forget yours again, David said, his voice firm. You gave me my life twice. Let me give something back this time, Sam smiled gently. You already did. You remembered me. The invitation. David stood up and looked straight into Sam's eyes. I'm not leaving here without you, he said. You're coming back with me, not as a janitor, but as the head of security for Bright Tech. Sam blinked in surprise. Head of security? I don't need a title, David. It's not about the title, David said. It's about giving you the respect you always deserved. You've been protecting us all along. Now let everyone see it. For a long moment, Sam said nothing. His gaze wandered toward the stained glass window, where light painted colors on the floor. He looked tired, but in his eyes, a small spark returned, something that had been missing for years. Finally, he nodded. All right. But only if I can still clean the floors sometimes, David laughed. A genuine, warm laugh. Deal. Lena smiled too, wiping a tear from her eye. The return. The next morning, when Sam walked into Bright Tech again, everyone turned to look. But this time, their eyes weren't filled with judgment or laughter. They were filled with respect. The security team stood straight as he entered. The staff clapped softly. Some even bowed their heads. The CEO himself met Sam at the entrance and placed a new ID badge around his neck. Captain Samuel Reed, head of security cameras, flashed as employees gathered around. David spoke loudly so everyone could hear. Let today remind us that greatness doesn't always wear a suit. Sometimes it wears a simple uniform and carries a mop. Applause filled the hall. Sam stood there quietly, humble as always, but this time his eyes shone with pride, not for recognition, but for the peace that finally returned to his heart. The CEO's words later. In a small ceremony, David handed Sam his old medal. He said, "You once told me that promises fade, but this one won't. From now on, your story will remind everyone here what courage and loyalty really mean." Sam smiled faintly. "I didn't do it for praise. I did it because it was right," David nodded. "And that's exactly why you deserve it." The room fell silent. Even the toughest security guards looked moved. Many wiped their eyes as Sam pinned the medal to his chest again, not out of pride, but remembrance. That evening, after everyone left, Sam walked through the empty office alone. He stopped near his old cleaning cart. The mop and bucket were still there. He touched the handle gently and whispered, "You and I did good work, old friend." Then he looked out through the glass windows at the city lights and smiled. After all the years of silence, he finally felt seen, valued, and at peace. In that moment, the janitor who had once been forgotten became a legend, not just for saving lives, but for reminding everyone what true honor looks like. The sun was setting behind the tall glass building of Brightech. Golden light reflected off every window, turning the office into a sea of warm color. Inside, the employees were finishing their day, but something was different now. People smiled more. They greeted the janitors. They noticed faces they used to ignore, all because of one man, Sam. The company that learned to care. It had been a week since Sam's story became known. News channels had picked it up. Janitor turns out to be a war hero. Unsung hero saves CEO's life twice. Every article showed his calm face. Standing proudly beside Mr. David Collins, the CEO who had once overlooked him, the story inspired millions online. Messages flooded in, from soldiers, from janitors, from ordinary people who said Sam's courage reminded them to keep believing in goodness. But Sam didn't care about fame. He came to work every morning the same way, quietly, early, always with a smile. The only difference was that now, people smiled back. The unexpected visit one afternoon, while Sam was checking the security system, the receptionist called him. "Sam, there's someone here to see you," she said. He walked to the lobby and froze. A woman stood there holding a small boy's hand. Her eyes were soft and full of tears. "Sam," she whispered. For a moment he couldn't speak. Then slowly, recognition filled his eyes. "Emily." She nodded. "It's me, Uncle Sam." The boy hid behind her leg, shy but curious. "This is my son, Noah," she said. "He's your sister's grandson." Sam's heart stopped. He hadn't seen his family in over 20 years. The war, the guilt, the shame. He had kept himself away from everyone he loved. Emily stepped closer. "We saw you on the news, Mom." She cried when she found out you were alive. Sam's hands trembled. She's alive?" "Yes," Emily said softly. She never stopped hoping. "She said you were always her hero." Tears rolled down Sam's cheeks. He bent down to look at little Noah. The boy smiled and said, "Mom says you're a hero. Is that true?" Sam chuckled through his tears. "No, son. I just tried to do the right thing." Noah nodded seriously. "That's what heroes do." The CEO's speech. That same week, Brightech held a special event, not for investors, but for gratitude. Employees filled the large hall as Mr. Collins walked onto the stage with Sam beside him. David spoke into the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, before we begin, I want to tell you a story. It's about a man who taught me what true success means." The crowd listened in silence. "For years, we walked past him without seeing him," David continued. "He mopped our floors, cleaned our offices, and smiled every day. We thought he was just doing a job. But he was doing something much greater, protecting us, teaching us kindness, and reminding us that no one is just anything. He turned toward Sam. This man stood between me and danger not once, but twice. And even then he asked for nothing in return. The hall echoed with applause. Some employees had tears in their eyes. David continued, "We call him a janitor, but to me, he's the soul of this company. Because it's people like him who remind us that character, not position, defines a person's worth." Sam tried to speak but couldn't. His voice broke as he said softly, "Thank you. But I just did what anyone with a heart would do." David smiled. "And that's exactly why you'll never be forgotten here." The audience rose for a standing ovation, the promise later that evening. David and Sam stood on the building's rooftop, watching the city lights flicker below. David said quietly, "You know, you could retire now." "You've done enough," Sam smiled. "If I retire, who will keep this place clean?" David laughed. "You'll never change, will you?" Sam's eyes softened. "Maybe we shouldn't. Maybe staying the same, kind, humble, honest, that's the best way to live." David nodded. "You've changed how everyone sees this company, Sam. People greet each other differently now. They look at the cleaners, the guards, the helpers, and they say thank you." Sam looked at the city. "That's all I ever wanted, for people to see each other again." The last scene weeks later, the office was busier than ever. New faces had joined, new projects had started. But every morning began the same way, with Sam walking through the doors, greeting everyone with a smile. One morning, little Noah came running through the lobby holding a lunchbox. "Uncle Sam, Mom made your favorite pie." Sam laughed and picked him up. "You'll spoil me, kid." Across the lobby, David watched them with a smile. He turned to Lena and said quietly, "You know, he still refuses the company car." Lena smiled. "That's Sam for you. He doesn't need a car. He already has respect and love." David nodded. "Yes, and that's worth more than anything." The moral that evening, as the office lights turned off one by one, Sam stood by the window one last time. He whispered softly, "Sometimes life gives you another chance, not to change the past, but to be better in the present." He turned off the lights, locked the door and walked out, calm, peaceful, and proud. The camera would fade out here, on the image of an old man walking into the orange glow of sunset. His shadow long, but his heart light, and the narrator's voice would say, "Never judge someone by their job, their clothes, or their silence. Because behind every simple face, there might be a story of courage, sacrifice, and love." The janitor who swept the floors also swept away the company's ignorance. He didn't just clean. He taught everyone what it means to be human. The end.